In your top story this hour, South Africa has objected to last week's decision by the African Union Commission to grant Israel official observer status at the Continental Organization. The AU handed Israel the observer status on Thursday in a move the two parties believe will enable Israel to help the AU battle the coronavirus pandemic and terrorism on the continent. Well, for more on this now, let's bring in CGTN's Angelo Coppola in Johannesburg, as well as Moussa Faki, a senior research fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues. Let's start with you, Angelo. South Africa, of course, has not minced its words in response to this decision by the AU Commission, calling it incomprehensible, saying that it is appalled and shocked. Tell us more about South Africa's objection and whether or not the country has formally raised this matter with the AU Commission.
Well, Lindy, Clausen Monyela, the spokesperson for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation here in South Africa, says that the SA or South African government view is that Israel continues to illegally occupy Palestine in complete defiance of its international obligations and relevant UN resolutions. According to Monyela, South Africa, in fact, firmly believes that as long as Israel is not willing to negotiate a peace plan without preconditions, it should not have that observer status at the AU. He went on to say that it's, as you said, incomprehensible that the AU Commission chooses to reward Israel at a time when its oppression, as he put it, of the Palestinians has been demonstrably more brutal, added to which, of course, the AU has strenuously objected to the deaths of Palestinians and the destruction of civil infrastructure in that area. So the decision by the AU, according to Monyela, in this context is even more inexplicable. The South African government has asked the chairperson of the Commission to provide a briefing to all member states on this decision. Monyela says that he hopes that the decision will actually be discussed by the Executive Council and the Assembly of Heads of State and Government. And he told us that a date hadn't yet been fixed yet. Lindy?
Well, let's bring in someone now who understands the inner workings of the African Union. Our Ethiopia correspondent, Girum Chala, now joins us from Addis. Girum, first of all, just explain to us whether or not there are, in fact, other countries around the world that have observer status within the AU. How does this all work? And can a decision like the one regarding Israel, can it be reversed?
So, Lindy, first of all, the African Union Commission has a mandate to accept any application by a country or entity to have an observer status in its operations, including the summit itself. When it comes to the issue of Israel, by the way, Israel so far has been submitting applications of observation status twice before, and they were both rejected. But this third time, it has got a chance of being accepted as an official observer for the African Union operations. Now, you should understand that the Commission, although it has a mandate to accept or reject observer requests by nations or entities, it is also understandable that the African Union Summit, the 8th of State Summit, or the Executive Council is the one that has a power to perhaps reject or accept at the end of the day. So this decision of accepting Israel can be changed when the Heads of State first come together, and a request by South Africa can be given to the Commission so that this can be taken as an agenda and it can be changed. There is nothing that the African Union Commission can do on its own without consultation at the end of the day with the summit, because this is a body that is going to handle operations of the union, but the union, the bigger body, is the one that must decide at the end of the day. So the dissatisfaction, the concern by South Africa can be addressed at the end of the day as a member state of the nation by bringing this into the attention of the Commission or even the union when the assembly comes together, Lindy.
So third time lucky then for Israel with this particular application. But what does this mean for the African Union? For some analysis, let's now turn to Moussa Faki in Johannesburg. Moussa, of course, South Africa making a valid moral or ethical point with regards to its objection. But what are the practical implications, if any, of Israel having observer status within the AU? Is this a bigger deal, as South Africa would have us believe?
Well, this might just end up as an own goal for Israel, because if the decision is overturned, it will be extremely embarrassing for Israel moving forward. But we also need to understand that the observer status will give Israel proximity to the countries or members of the African Union, enabling, therefore, Israel to push forward its own agenda. And that is, for South Africa, very troubling. So we might just see Israel actually getting very embarrassed as a result of this, because this decision apparently was not consultative. In other words, not all member states were part and parcel of this decision. And chances are, therefore, if the decision is not reversed, it might just create tensions within the African Union. But it is a move that Israel has always attempted to do, because they want to get closer to action. They want to get closer to the member states, so that they can lobby each and every one of them with an intention of ensuring that the decisions that are taking or decisions that are made by the African Union do favor Israel. So I think it's going to be Israel's own goal, and Israel might just end up being embarrassed by the decision if it is indeed reversed.
We'll have to watch closely to see exactly how the AU responds. Thank you so much to Tembisa Fakude, as well as our correspondents, Girum Chala and Angela Coppola.